you very much. I'll be back later.
Thanks, that's good.
Okay. That's done. We do have a, let's see. We do have an item I'd like to take up, if the board allows, before the 10 a.m. item on the Water Agency, and this is item 7B, discussion possible action including introduction and waiving the reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 10.08.010 of the Mendocino County Code pertaining to the leashing of dogs. This would be a GSA-sponsored item, and the director is here, so I'd like to take this up if this is... Oh, sure. Oh, you bet. Okay, Madam.
Krista McMimmy, your GSA Director. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this item is back before you. You heard this item on September the 9th. Staff was directed to make some further amendments. We worked with Janine Nadell, County Council, made those further amendments. Those amendments being reference to sections pertaining to the definition of vicious dogs and enforcement responsibilities. And those are listed in the ordinance changes, and we're requesting your introduction and waive the reading at this time.
Questions of staff on this amendment? Okay. Questions of staff? Seeing none, are there members of the public wishing to speak on this item? I'll take public comment on this item at this point. Okay, seeing no members of the public come forward, what's the action of the board on this amendment?
I got just one question.
Okay.
How does this ordinance coincide with state law that says that you have to turn your dog loose every so many hours?
I'm going to defer to County Council on that one.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that provision in the state law, but essentially this ordinance amendment was done in an effort to deal with the dog park that's going to be created over on Low Gap Road, and that we didn't want there to be a conflict with leash laws and the dogs being allowed to run around in the dog park. So that's all this. That's why we're bringing this ordinance forward. It's the only reason.
But there is a state law that says that you have to turn your dog loose. You can't keep it contained for over, it's a 2 or 3 hour period at a time. And then you have to let it loose for so long. And then, I mean, in other words, a working person is supposed to go home 2 or 3 times a day and tie their dog for a period of time. That is a state law.
Okay, well, I'm not aware of that specific provision. I'm happy to look at that, but I don't believe that
It's, I think when you look it up, it's in the index under ridiculous.
Okay.
That's under a special department of the state government too, right? Okay. Okay, further concerns, questions of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move introduce and waive reading.
Second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second to waive the reading of the ordinance amendment. Discussion to the item? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. There is a member of the public, one other item before we go to the Water Agency, if the board would so indulge me. And this was an item Supervisor Pinches pulled from the consent calendar, item 5, adoption of resolution requesting mitigation of economic impact to the state of California ARB in use heavy-duty on-road truck air toxic control measures by delaying implementation. Supervisor Pinches.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I pulled this item because in reading this resolution, it's all about delaying for the State Board Air Resources Control Board to delay the implementation of the in-use heavy-duty on-road truck air toxic control measures. And at our discussion at our board meeting in Walla, it was, in looking at the minutes, it was a strong wording that we want to oppose that. Not only delay it, but to oppose it. The wording that is used in our minutes were enough is enough. And so I was emailed a copy of this, but I really wasn't consulted, and part of the board direction was to have air quality consult with me to draft this, and so I'm disappointed that this resolution just says that we want it delayed. That's basically saying, well, we're all right with it, but just given a little more time. And it was a clear direction of the board that we weren't all right with it, that we wanted to oppose this. And I think we need this bigger than this resolution. We directed Supervisor Delbar that's going over to Sacramento, I believe it's December 17th, something like that. And I think we need to send him, what do we want him to tell the state? Or do we want to delay it, or are we opposed to it? There's a big difference. So that's the reason I pulled this off the consent calendar. December 11th is a meeting in Sacramento, which
Okay.
we directed the supervisor to go to, but we need to tell him what we want for him to represent the board.
And if I can interject, I do believe the meeting in Guala was to condense